Please be aware that I do not represent any company. I'm not endorsed by or affiliated with any automotive manufacturer or car dealership. All opinions expressed in this video are my own, and all trademarks, logos, and brand names are the property of their respective owners. Hey guys, so today we're gonna replace air conditioning compressor on a Tundra. I'm gonna show you how it's done. Mine got seized from constant use with a killer chiller, etc. And I got a used one, so we're gonna put it in today. So first step is to hook up our AC machine, low pressure, high pressure, and evacuate the system from the refrigerant. So once the refrigerant has been removed, we gotta take the belt off. And there's where the belt tensioner is located. I like to crank on that wrench from the bottom because there's not a whole lot of space from the top, and then slip the belt off that way. Next we gotta take off the driver's front wheel. Next, after you take the wheel off, there'd normally be a rubber cover here, but I took mine off the truck a while ago for better engine cooling. So pop the little clips holding it on, then this little splash shield comes out, and you've got to undo these two 10mm head bolts. One's here and one is right there, and then after you unscrew them, you can pull these lines out. So to get the lines out, you just give them a little wiggle, and there's one, and then the other one. Boom, they're out. Get the hoses out of the way and make sure to cover them with something, either a plastic bag. I just use a couple clean gloves and zip tie them so that dirt and crap doesn't fall into them while you're working on the compressor. You get the belt off of the compressor, and then a couple more things you've got is you have this harness here, so you can pop it off and get it out of the way so you can access it better. And you've got the AC clutch connector, so that, and then there's a little clip in here. I'm gonna get my clip remover and get that thing out. So once the harness and the clip and everything's out of the way, you've got these two nuts and two bolts. There is a nut, there's a bolt right there, and then you've got another one right there, and one is behind this harness. Where is it hiding? Right there at the bottom. So you gotta take those off. They're 12 mils, and you just need to use like a swivel to get to the bottom too. So once the nuts and bolts are out, you have to pull the two studs. So you've got one stud at the top, you've got one stud at the bottom there, right there, and it's E8 female torch socket. If you don't get the studs out, you can't get the compressor out. It's too tightened. All the studs are removed. It's just sitting there on dowels right now. That's why it's not falling out. But once you pull on it a little bit, it's gonna come off the dowels and it'll just be free floating, aka falling on your hands. And one thing I didn't mention is I'm not reusing this compressor because the compressor is seized. But if you were reusing it, make sure to plug these holes as well. Let's say if you're just changing the clutch or something. So now, there you go. It's loose and it just comes off the dowels, and then you gotta pull it out through this hole. I might have to take this little bracket off so I have enough space. I'm gonna find out right now. I haven't changed one of these in a couple of years. Turns out you can get it out even with a bracket in place. So a little bit of wiggle, and here's our compressor. So this is the guy I've just pulled out. So you can see the pulley spins, but the compressor itself is seized. See that? It's not supposed to be happening. This one you can actually rotate. This one is seized. However, this is what the junkyard sent me. The clutch cover is completely destroyed on it. So instead of trying to ship it back and go through all that hassle, I'm just going to change the clutch cover from this one onto this one. I'll show you how that's done. So you just got to pull this 10mm bolt out, and then you need to pull the cover off. Sometimes they just pop right out. Sometimes you need a puller to do it. Bolt comes out, and then you either wiggle it off or you use a puller to pull it off. There's going to be spacer washers underneath, so you want to save those because you may need them to space out the other clutch. There we go. There are the spacers right there. So save them. There could be none or one or two or three. Looks like this has 2 spacer washers here. So this is the shitty bent cover that came off, and this all looks nice other than a tiny little bit of rust here. But this is my original one. You can see how burnt it is because as the compressor was getting seized, the clutch was still trying to drive it, and it's not happy looking at all. So I thought I was going to be able to just swap it directly, but that's not going to happen. So what I think I'm going to do is just drill out these 4 rivets, and I'm going to install the clutch without that cover. It doesn't really serve much purpose other than keeping big rocks or something out of it. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So I ground the heads of the rivets and I punched 3 of them out. Now this is something you are not gonna have to do unless you get a used compressor, which is messed up the same way as mine was. So I'm gonna get the last rivet out of here, and then we're gonna move on to the assembly. So this is the clutch that I'm left with, minus the cover. Now we're gonna reassemble it. So these washers here, there'll be a different sizes and different number of them depending on your compressor, and the purpose of them is to have the proper clutch clearance here. If your clearance is too small, when it gets hot it can start engaging on its own, and if the clearance is too large, when you apply the clutch it may not actually grab. So the manual says not to use any more than 3 washers. I'm not replacing the clutch, so these 2 should work fine. However, once I put it together, I'm gonna measure the gap with a feeler gauge and see what we have there. It's supposed to be between 14 to 24 thou. So if you're in that range, then you're good to go. So we're gonna put these 2 washers that came out of this one back and throw the clutch back on there. Yeah. Maybe it'll be easier to just chuck them inside here. There we go. Okay. Alright, clutch is on. So I'm gonna put the bolt back in and then tighten it up to 13 foot-pounds and check the clutch clearance. So the feeler gauge method didn't work out because there's like a lip right there, so you can't actually get the feeler gauge in straight, and if you try to jam it in there, it kind of cocks the clutch over. So we'll do the method that Toyota recommends. So you get a battery, connect the positive to pin 3 on the compressor clutch, and then you get your dial indicator on, and then you're gonna touch the housing with a negative, and you see the clutch moves. So there's your clutch moving up and down, and now watch how much we go. So it's about 18 or 19 thou. So the spec is 14 to 21. So we are exactly in that middle of the spec. So we are good to go and reassemble this. Alright, so once you jam the compressor back in there, put the 2 studs back, put the nuts and bolts back on, pretty much reassemble it in the same way that we did the disassembly. So before putting the lines in, make sure to put some AC oil on the O-ring. There we go. Move it up nicely, and then stick it back in the hole. Pull the plugs out first, of course. So once the compressor is in and everything's assembled, final step is to recover, vacuum the system, and recharge it. The spec on my truck is 1.21 to 1.43 pounds, but I put about 10% more because I have a killer chiller system on it. You most likely won't have it, so fill it up somewhere in between that range, and then check the AC system performance. So that's it. Enjoy your icy cold air conditioning. Cheers, guys.